Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Bunce, class of 2014, horticulture and business for my degrees, and today we're going to cover how to apply mulch the correct way. Now a lot of people have different ways about going about it. This is my personal preference, so we're going to walk you step by step. It's that time of year to get some mulch on the ground. So just like painting, mulch requires a lot of prep work. There's good mulch jobs and bad. We're going to hopefully show you how to do it the correct way today. So as you can see here, we've got a site that hasn't had bark for some time. Bark is synonymous with mulch. It's just a type of mulch that we're using today. There's a few things that we're going to do first. First of all, we're going to grab a rake here and clear out the site. There's a lot of different reasons why we're cleaning out the site and why you want to get a lot of the dead plant materials and leaves and whatnot away from the plants. Primarily disease. Early in the springtime, before any of your plants leaf out, this is a hydrangea here, before they leaf out, a lot of water builds up around the plants and can cause a lot of the residual disease found in the old plant matter to redevelop and affect the plants. So by getting rid of this plant matter right at the get-go, you're doing yourself a favor and your plants a favor. So getting this out of the way, clearing as much of the leaf material as possible, we expose some of the ground. Now, it's a heavy debate within the landscape industry as to whether or not to use landscape fabric or not. I am a believer not as much in landscape fabric. It can get kind of messy, especially for moving plants in and out of a bed, kind of like I do here. So if you're not using landscape fabric, that just means that you have to double up on the amount of mulch that you're applying. So again, we're not using landscape fabric here. We've got the site pretty well prepped with one exception. We've got a couple different dandelions here. Weeds should be removed from your landscape beds before you apply mulch. Typically mulch will suffocate out weeds. That's one of the great pros of utilizing it in your landscape. However, there are some pesky weeds, dandelions being one of them, that can really develop and grow through a lot of different types of mulch. So we're going to grab our trusty pitchfork here. There's one. There's two. Now we've got that prepped. So we're weed free. We've removed all of the old plant material from last year. Now we're going to go ahead and do one of my favorite steps, which is applying a pre-emergent. Pre-emergent is utilized in stopping weeds before they can really start. There's a lot of weed seeds within the ground, kind of like there was leaves from around the plant bases. There's a lot of seeds that we can't see. And so by applying this is a trade name, Preen. That's the one I use, but there's a lot of different ones. There's organic, different types of measure that you can do too. But in applying this to the ground, it's safe, but it hinders weed growth even more than just mulch alone. Put a thin layer down. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. Just a good coating. So, we've gone ahead. We've removed the leaves from the base of our plants. We've removed the weeds. We've prepped the site, whether you're using a landscape fabric or a preen, either or, both are good. Now comes the fun part. We're going to be applying the mulch to the bed. Now the bed itself is already prepped to a certain extent because we have a lip that's created along this sidewalk face. If you don't have a lip like that, you want to ensure that you do have one, whether it's against the sidewalk or just a regular bed found throughout your yard. By creating a little bit of a lip here, you're doing two things. You're creating an environment where the wood chips aren't going to run off through water or through the use of the landscape bed. Since say you're walking through the landscape bed, changing out plants, watering plants and whatnot, that lip is really going to be your best friend in retaining the mulch. Now the mulch. When it comes to mulch itself, there's a lot of different varieties on the market. Kind of like Nike or Adidas or Reebok, or New Balances if you prefer. Mulch comes in a lot of different varieties. I'm a natural mulch guy. This is natural bark cedar chips. Just preference more than anything. There's a lot of different colored varieties too. There's a gold, a red, black. I've seen a lot of different colors. There's also in southern states pine needle, so pine straw, even cocoa mulch. I've seen that before too. So a lot of different varieties. Really, they all do the same thing. They help out with retention of moisture, and they help out with weed suppression. Really, it creates a really good environment for your plants to grow and be healthy throughout the year. When it comes down to the application of it, an initial application, kind of like what we're doing here today, you want it to be thicker than anything. Weed suppression for a natural bark like this, anywhere from 3 to 4 inches thick, is kind of a standard for weed suppression. In the years following, say next year I come back and I want to spruce up the bed, an inch to 2 is really all that you'll need. Really just depends on your utilization, what you're trying to achieve out of the bed. I always tend to put it on a little bit thicker, primarily just to make sure that my time's not wasted on the bed. I want to be sure that, you know, the prep work, the pulling of the weeds, the plant material and whatnot, I'm not doing this later in the fall. So it's going to set you up for success as time goes on. When it comes down to actually applying the mulch, you want to get right up close to the plants, but you don't always want to get right on top of them. Leave a little bit of room. An inch or 2 is kind of standard. It helps with water. You don't want water to pool up. You want it to drain out nicely down to the root system. But you do want full coverage. You can see that I'm kind of shaking it as I go, making sure we get a good uniform coverage throughout the landscape bed. When it comes to purchasing mulch, there's a lot of different varieties and ways that you can get it. I did the bulk method today, which is the old tried and true, drove my pickup truck to the landscape nursery and picked it up. But there's a lot of different other varieties too. You can have it dropped off from a nursery. You can go to Meijer, Menards, Lowe's, any of your big box stores or local municipalities. They have a lot of different bags and whatnot too, which also works. Really, it just depends on the size of your beds, really how much you need. The larger amounts you're going to want to buy bulk. The smaller amounts you're going to want to go to the bag route. That pretty much covers it for today. I appreciate the time, and if you haven't done so already, be sure you follow the Alumni Association on our Facebook pages, Ferris State Alumni, or on Instagram at Ferris Alumni, or even Twitter. We're out on the Twitter world too. Thanks, we'll see you next time.